Well, welcome to our women in our Facebook group, Women's Spiritual Healers. We have a beautiful wahine woman here, CatrinJacksties. Did I say that right, Jacksties?
Yes, very nice.
So Katrin is a speaker, author, intuitive practitioner, expert in mental well-being and trainer of the 2-point one smile. So I'll say that again, 2 points, 1 smile method, who turned a hobby into a successful business. Katrin is also a loving mother of 3 grandchildren, a world traveler, a big dreamer, a truth seeker, and embodies a lifelong love of learning. Katrin believes that life is a gift, and you are the key to achieving everything you want. Learning how to trust your intuition, trust yourself, and trust the universe are key factors to living your best life. So I'm really, really excited to welcome you today, Katrin, and to talk more about what you do and why you're so passionate about what you do. So shall we just start from that point?
Yeah, thanks, Marama, for having me. I'm feeling honored and very excited about our time here together too.
Lovely, yeah. So you're welcome to go into the work that you do, because I'm really, really interested. We talked before about working overseas, so you're a world traveler, an intuitive practitioner, author, and a speaker. So that's like, that must be like decades and decades of your commitment to what you do. So yeah, if you want to talk about any of those points and why you're so passionate about what you do.
Yeah, the reason why I'm so passionate about this particular method, and the majority of people worldwide who have come across this may know this under the term 2-pointing. Why I'm so passionate about it is the simplicity of the method. It's ancient, it comes originally from Hawaii, and it's so simple and so easy that everybody can learn it. And it has transformed my life in so many different ways, in a way that is joyful and peaceful, not dramatic, not something I couldn't cope with. And that's why I love this method in particular so much. And before that, I have a lifelong journey of looking for ways. My mantra as a little child was always, there must be something else. I grew up in a very abusive household, and we had abuse on any level happening. And even when I was really little, I looked out into the stars. My bedroom window was right above me, and I was always saying, there must be something else. This can't be it. With 6 years old, I, with my little twin sister, we escaped for the very first time. And that continued for a few years, because we always had to return for some reason. So I was on the lookout since I'm young for that something else. And the journey led me to read many books, to different modalities, to practicing, going to different workshops, and they all, in my opinion now, have value, because we people are different, and not everybody is learning or resonating with the same things. We are very, on one level, we are, which I get to later on, we are one, and we are all the same. But as an expression of ourselves here on this planet, we are very individual, and therefore everybody is attracted to different modalities or different tools or different journeys. And in my philosophy, every of these journeys is leading to Rome, meaning to peace or to love and light. And therefore every method has value. I am, after practicing many different ones, I love this one so much because it communicates directly with my subconscious, and that's where changes need to happen. If you want to change your life, that's where it's happening. But it also connects you with your soul and with your intuition, and does it in a way that is very unique to each individual person. And yeah, since I came across this, initially I couldn't wait until I found somebody who wanted to 2-point with me. And I've done lots of free workshops initially. And then somebody placed one of my workshops on a YouTube channel. And since then, I had requests from people in Canada and the US and Europe saying, can you come to us and do a workshop? And before certain times with the C word, that's what I did. And now this is my business as well, as much as it is my joy.
That is amazing. That's truly amazing. I'm very interested in what you do. And I'm sure that women that are listening today would be interested in what you do. And so you do have a Facebook group, Katrin? And
yes, I have a Facebook group. I also have it's possibly the easiest to find it via my profile. My profile is my name, and then it's linked to my page, and that leads to my Facebook group. I also have a YouTube channel. When people, my whole workshop, the basic workshop, is on YouTube for free for everybody to see. Because my belief is there are people on this planet who don't have the, I call that energy exchange in form from finances. And I can't be everywhere. So the work is, or the basic workshop is free on my YouTube channel for everybody if they are interested, but they also obviously can work in other ways with me.
That's fantastic. So for any of our women that would like to connect in with Katrin, her YouTube channel is under her name, CatrinJacksties, and yeah, just pop that name into YouTube and she'll pop up there. Yes,
they also might find my website, so if they to learn more about this or to learn how they can connect with me or anything, so that can happen afterwards.
Yes, it's wonderful. So I see you've done quite a lot of different things in your lifetime. An author of a book. Can you tell us a little bit about your book there? I'm really interested in that too.
Yes. When I have been living in New Zealand 18 years and brought my children up here as a single mom. And when they all kind of were starting to leave the nest, I felt very empty and because we are a very, very tight-knit unit. And an opportunity came up for me to work back in Germany for a while. And I thought, if this comes up, there is a reason, so I might as well go. And I did. That's a whole different story. But once COVID hit there, the official work, I couldn't do anymore. And then I had some time. And I thought, why not write a book? And before, I've written a book about the message that I'm using. But that book that I wrote then, it's called There Must Be Something Else. It's basically my story, because it sounds crazy, but I always feel my journey is my gift. And I like to explain people, no matter what they work through, and I worked through quite a lot in my life, there is always a solution. We are never alone. And but I'm a very practical person, and I like to support people on a really everyday basis, daily practical stuff. So that's what I did with this book. I explained the journey, how I went through my own traumas, and there was more than one, and how I overcame it and what I did until I finally found this method, and even a little bit afterwards too, how my life changed from living in fear and panic and no trust whatsoever to then living, I live now in complete trust. I call it the universe, or the light energy, or you can also call it God, or you can call it 𝐿, whatever you resonate with. I prefer to use words that have the least amount of connotation so that the majority of people can identify with it. And I live with that since quite a few years now, and that's so different to living in fear. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing it with as many people, in particular women, as I can, to help them too. Life can be so much different than the stuff I had when I was younger.
Yes, and just having the tools.
Yes.
Having the tools so you know how to deal with things that you've been through as well, which is always.
Absolutely, Marama. Having the tools and practicing them when you feel okay. Not just practice, not just, you know, taking them out of the drawer when you finally are in that bad space.
Yeah.
Because the more you practice something when you feel relaxed and good and in a positive state of mind, the more your body can become used to it. And then when a situation arises that is overwhelming, you just know immediately, that's where I go to. And then the body basically does the work on itself. So I always encourage people to learn something before. Not everybody needs to have a trauma in order to learn an energy method or any method that helps them through challenging times in our lives, because we all have them.
Yeah, absolutely. And making it part of your daily practice, so it becomes a part of who you are.
Exactly.
Practice.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. And I know we talked a bit about your travels into back to your home country in Germany. Do you want to explain your work there, because that's very interesting about how many, the people that you've worked alongside there? Yeah.
Well, I have been before coming to New Zealand, I have been a hotel manager. That was my first job. So I worked my way up from being a roommate up to a manager. And I love hospitality, and I love organizing, and I used to organize events for up to 5,000 people. And
wow.
I have a very forward, sideways, backwards going mind, so I can think about everything that might happen, and therefore I was very good at that. That work brought me then back to Germany. I was meant to just replace somebody for 3 months, and yeah, the story took a little longer. But before I went, I had a dream, and I had a dream about a forest where I would be walking up with a group of indigenous leaders. I'm not sure, have you seen The Lord of the Rings? I hope you did. And there is this one scene where they are in the forest of the Lady of Light, and they walk up. And it's very similar. But then we reached a plateau at the top, and I saw all the trees, and I saw the horizon and everything. And I had to be in the center with these other indigenous leaders. And we did a ceremony then. And behind me were people, which I at that point didn't know. And then once I came to Germany, I love being in nature. And this is my way of to re-energize, and I like to be in nature on my own too. So I was in an area with a huge big forest, and I went into that forest and went up a path and come to exactly that plateau. And then I knew, okay, I'm here for a reason other than my work, that normal work.
Wow.
The area, and especially the hotel I was working in, has had a very energetic and challenging history, including the Nazi time. I found documents in the old hotel up very much in the roof about that area, and letters, and who was in the party, and meetings, and very dark stuff. So I did a lot of, and I use quartz crystals for that. Also, I'm not considering myself totally knowledgeable in that area. Again, I go with my intuition. So I placed rose quartz around all the centers of or the corners of each of the buildings that were involved, and have done a lot of healing and transformation in that area. And as you can hear, obviously, I am German. And when this is another reason why I love this two-pointing, or this 2 points one smile method so much. The majority of people initially, when they want to change something, they want to remove their own blockages, whether it's health or finances or my relationship. It's all just initially about themselves. But because we are all connected, the next level really is, once we transform something within ourselves, we help to transform it for our children, for our tamariki, or mokopuna, I think, is grandchildren.
Yes. And
we also transform it at the same time for our ancestors, because my work is based on quantum physics, and there is no past and future. It's only the present moment. And I can work with cultural fields too. And the German culture incorporates, obviously, a lot of pain and a lot of guilt. And I even experienced that as a child, as a young woman, and later on. I always felt guilty, although I had nothing to do with the times we all are thinking about. But it's important to release and transform these patterns. The same with domestic abuse, for example. That's one of my passionate topics. Domestic abuse is not just a household thing, especially when it happens in families. It's a generational thing. And it doesn't help us to, and I'm sorry if I go a bit off tangent here, but something in me. It's not about blaming the accuser only, or trying to punish them. That will not change the pattern. Healing obviously has to happen. I prefer to call it transformation. Again, is less connotation around it. For the person who has been abused, but also for the abuser, because they continue a pattern from their ancestor line. And I'm not condoning the behavior, but I've seen, I worked in Canada quite a bit, and I've seen still to this day, a lot of domestic and sexual abuse is happening within families. And that is because if you grow up in an environment, you like myself, I knew I didn't like it, but I also didn't know anything else. And you are basically being programmed into certain behavior patterns, into thinking patterns, and to understanding how the world operates pattern without your saying yes or no. This is happening in the first few years. And then you play that out on autopilot again and again and again. And until we are, first of all, becoming aware of that, and then understanding we need to change the pattern. And that pattern always starts with us. For the victim, but also for the abuser, but for the victim too. If you grow up being a victim in your own childhood, it's very likely you are becoming a victim in your next phase of life again, because you have learned that behavior. And yeah, that's one of my, I wish I had more, or I will be, I don't say I wish, I intend to have at some point more influence with the right people to make them understand we are all in this together. In every country. It's not just in New Zealand, it's not just in Germany, it is everywhere. And we have to change first ourselves, but then as a community. There are other ways to deal with theft, with abuse, with all of this. Punishment alone is certainly not the answer. That will not change the pattern. So that's and that's what I did a lot in Germany too. I felt I had to go back because of, first of all, things in my childhood that were still not being released in love. Other people call it forgiveness. I say transform it into love, because anything I haven't forgiven, so to speak, is again affecting me, not the other party. And I've done a lot of work on the land and on the cultural patterns in that area.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some big work.
Yes. And if I may add, I had no idea that I can actually do any of this stuff. The way I was brought up was, first of all, there is no God. My parents were atheists. I hated the church, the institution church, very much. Didn't like any of these things, but what it does, if you are like this, there is some aspect in you that is missing. Spirituality or understanding we are spiritual beings is vital to living a life in this body on this planet that can be joyful and that can be meaningful. And I felt the first part of my life, I was constantly fighting, basically fighting with myself, fighting with men, fighting with life as such, always having authorities that I needed to fight. And because I missed that part, and that's what I connected with when I came to New Zealand. New Zealand, the energy of this land here, and you may call it spirits, you may call it, I don't know what it is, but something entered me and connected with me so strongly to help me understand that I am a spiritual being living in this body, and I'm connecting to everything there is.
Absolutely. Yeah. I so agree with that about, we are all spiritual beings having a human experience in the physical.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And your work is just so important in everything that you do. So for me, I've traveled to Germany and been part of different workshops there. And yes, I've experienced the density of the land and bringing what we call Modi or life force energy from this land to places in your country, in Germany, across Europe, and able to place different Modi or different life force energy into places that are very dense and needs that kind of healing. So when you're talking about healing land, that's part of the work that I have been doing for some time in our own country and also in your country. So it's really beautiful to connect to you in this way as well, because as you may know, I'm ready to head over with a team to travel into Europe again.
Yes.
And it's all about reigniting that life force energy into places that need healing and to send it out. And you're so right, Katrin, it's a humanity. It's a humanity thing. It's not just one culture and another culture. It's now time for the whole world to heal, and we all are able to bring our healing gifts to the world.
I also feel that it's finally the time that it becomes, I don't like the word mainstream, but it becomes accepted again. In Germany, when I came 6 years ago again, I had the impression, my Lord, they are backwards here in regards to natural remedies or alternative, which they call alternative. I always have to laugh about that one. Holistic healing, let's call it that. The New Zealand is so much further with that. Also, I live in Nelson here, and I can have any modality I want, but there was nothing in this whole area where I was living. But after 5 years, I saw more and more of these things popping up, and I'm so happy they finally are being looked at least by mainstream people, because somehow this is the time we all have chosen to be here at this time. And yes, if you only look at life from with a lens on that has been put on you when you were little, you can see everywhere just things playing out again and again and again, like this war with Russia and Ukraine. It's for me a repetition of the old ways and the very patriotic ways of doing something. Big boss sitting up there, another big boss there, they don't agree with each other, so the solution is war. That, when it happened, I thought, have we learned nothing in humanity? The majority, unfortunately, no, because they haven't done the work that you and I are doing. And you cannot change by just saying, well, I look for another way. You have to change it on an energetic and a subconscious and a spiritual level. And if you don't, you might have different kind of ideas about something, but the world is ready for this bigger transformation from masses. I see already we have, if you want to call it winning, we have won. The light has won. It's already there, but more and more people have to catch up with it, and they need people like you and myself and others who show them the light, let's call it that, or show them on an individual level what is possible, because people are mostly motivated when it affects them. Even sitting in this country here, hardly anybody is really affected, apart from petrol prices, by the war in Ukraine. If you would be sitting in Poland or even closer, or in Germany, you would feel quite different because it's closer to your door. And that is the same with us. The closest to our door is ourselves. And if somehow something helps us, then the motivation is really big. And I just started work with some of my people who follow me since some time, where I, if I may say that here briefly, I offer every 3 weeks a session where I help them transform their own personal energy blocks, I call them, not health problems, finances, or anything, it's energy blocks. But at the same time, at that session, I because that's my gift, I can work with groups and I can work with different dimensions. I transform ancestor stuff, cultural things, global, that's why I call it global transformation. And that happens from now until the end of November. Every 3 weeks, I felt guided to offer that, and we just had our first one on Monday, and it was beautiful.
Wow.
So the motivation usually first is, yes, I want to transform my own stuff, but then you can also influence your family, your community, your country, and the whole world if you choose to do so.
And it has to start with you, right, Katrin?
Absolutely.
Right here.
Always with yourself. Because you can't change anything else. You can only change yourself. You can influence, you can inspire, you can ignite, but you can changes happen within you.
Yes, it has to start here to make effect on others. Transformational, that's what I call transformational. And then so you're affecting it on a global level. In the work.
And I like to add, and this is another reason why I like the method I'm using. When people talk about transformation or healing work, Or at the moment on social media, I see the word trauma everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It becomes so heavy. It does not need to be this way. Yes, the pain we experienced going through these learning growth sessions, let's call them that, certainly not nice. And I do not want to diminish that pain. But the more we afterwards we talk about the trauma, the more we go back into that word or into that environment, the more we actually focusing again on trauma and on the heaviness and the negativity. While I see it, I see the things that I went through are now my gift, because I know how to transform them and I know how to help others get there. And the more I focus on, like, what is the phrase? What you focus on expands. So if I focus on light and joy and confidence and those kind of things, that's how my work works. Instead of focusing on the heavy aspects of having a severe illness or having experienced a trauma or being in fields like in the war. Absolutely understandable if you are right in the middle of it, continuously thinking about it. But if you're not in it anymore, and it happened like 20 years ago, it's not helpful to go back into just the pain or the heaviness of it. It's important to release it and focus on the joy. And that's possible with two-pointing. And that's another reason why I love this so much.
Fantastic. And I'm just curious to know, or to ask, with the two-pointing, is it about being in the present moment as opposed to being in the past?
Absolutely. And understanding, this is part of my teachings. I teach it first intellectually, because the mind is the one that stops any energy work. The mind is always like, oh, is something happening? And the subconscious gets really upset, because the subconscious does not like change. So it will first put up lots of resistance and blocks. But there is no, if you really go into the quantum physics aspect of it, there is no past. It is, and by the way, interesting that this method comes from Hawaii, because the Hawaiian language doesn't have past tense and also no future tense. They only have present tense. They understand life happens on different dimensions. And our brain is designed to only perceive a timeline, and the timeline has to have something in front of us, which is the future, and something behind us, which is the past. But that's the only reason why we are thinking in those terms. But if you go into quantum physics, everything kind of happens at the same time, just only on different dimensions. And this tool works through all of them and connects basically, and that brings you into the present. It connects with the universe or the light energy or God or io, and your soul and your intuition and your subconscious. And by being in that state, everything else happens. We are never really doing anything. We are just allowing this process to happen. And we allow to be in the space that we really are normally. But we are so good as humans to be out of that connection with the divine, or with let's call it divine, or the connection with Mother Earth. What is it? What is in Korero? Papa nur
Papa tua
nuku. Yes. I love some of the phrases in Korero. It's beautiful. We could be there all the time. But our whole education system, our whole upbringing, our cultural system, at least in the majority of this world, not for the indigenous cultures, but for us, let's say Westerners cultures, we learn to disconnect from that and are not feeling this being part of everything anymore. So we focus so much on being individualistic and being special, and focusing on more on that, what some people call ego. I don't really like to call it that way. For me, it's more, I think when I grow up, I'm separate from everything. And that's not the truth. That's not the truth. So I wish that we had more, and again, in some countries, it's starting, that this work starts in early childhood centers or with conscious parents who understand the connection. And for me, it doesn't mean that everybody has to live in the forest again now. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm a very, I like my house and I like my luxuries too. That's not necessary. The only necessary part is learning again how to connect, and how easy that is. And the easiest for you possibly too, and for me, is nature, going into a forest or going to the ocean. That's when we are most likely to feel the connection rather than the disconnection that we feel in cities or in bigger places.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, you're so right. For me, when I'm connecting, it's the going to the forest is the thing for me. Yeah, where I feel most connected to plant life. So in our culture, we have an understanding that we are already the tree. It's already born into us, so that we are all not separate from, but very connected to, because we are already part of it. It's in our blood, it's in ourselves, and born into it. So, so one of our sayings or whakatauki is ko o te awa, ko te awa, ko o, which means I am the river and the river is me. So that's through connection, we're able to connect through language, through going to the places that help us to make that connection. Yeah.
Yeah, as a learning Te Reo, I've just the language aspect I find very challenging. I'm usually pretty good with languages, but I must say I have to be in a very focused kind of state, because there is a completely different logic behind the language. And somehow I fear I have to understand the culture first before I can understand or make sense of the language. Let's say it like that. And I love the stories. I love the whakatoes, but also the, what do you call them? Not the karakias, but the waiatas, also the songs. I love that because there is so much wisdom in them and so much natural connection. So you should be feeling blessed that you have that kind of inbuilt. I had to really learn this from this connection. If you would have told me as a 20-year-old, well, go into the forest and hug a tree or touch a tree and he will tell you something, I would have said, yeah, you are nuts. I went for a walk yesterday and I met a kauri tree and I only touched it, and immediately when I do my work, I yawn. And yawned and had downloads, but that channel was blocked for so long, and I believe it is blocked for many people everywhere on this planet, also for a particular reason from another group, but let's not go into that. And it's slowly starting to be unblocked, and the more different ways we find of communicating that to people, whether it is through your work, and I've seen that you do a lot of work with plants too, which I'm very interested in, or whether it's a method that I use, or whether it's any other method, really doesn't matter, as long as we help people to find that connection again.
Yeah.
With that, everything is possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. When you've got the connection, you can connect into your own wairuatanga or your own spirituality. And when you have that, you have the world, you know, you have everything that you need.
Yes.
Everything that you could possibly dream of.
Yeah. And some people, I find that very interesting when a lot of people who don't know me or my work come and start a workshop. A lot of them start with, like I said before, this whole world seems to be people have to have goals and they have to achieve something, and whether it's a house or a car or everybody seems to have to have a six-figure income somehow since a while. That is so superficial, and but still people can start doing this work with it. The more they work with it, the more they realize what I'm actually really after is not the bigger house or the car or the 6 million. What my soul is yearning is, for example, the feeling of safety, or the feeling of abundance, or the feeling I'm being loved. Yeah. That's what we really are after. And so I love when people start somewhere thinking that's what I want, but that's only the mind talking that has been programmed. And then during the process, they realize that's actually not what I want at all. I want something completely different. And yeah, the world, that's why I'm saying I'm a big dreamer. The world can be a beautiful place, and life for me is magical now. Every day when I'm getting up, I feel grateful. That's the first thing I do, that I actually woke up again, and that I have a body that moves and that can take care of things. And I also am very I look after my body. When we're getting more mature, we really have to treat it also like, not necessarily like God, but treat it really well. Our feet, imagine how much they, over all these years, they have gone through and where they walked us to. And so eating healthy, or even learning about what I love about plant medicine, for example. I don't know enough, but I do know the plants, especially when they come from trees, in my opinion, they have far more wisdom than I ever will, and have it inbuilt. And then understanding this, looking at this and seeing how magnificent nature really is, how everything is working together. That doesn't mean life is always happy and butterflies. That's not what life is all about. But I love to see the magnificent that nature provides our eyes to see and experience. And then we must say, well, whoever created this must be a much bigger wisdom, much bigger energy than I even can imagine. And I am now a part of that. And our responsibility is to keep that magic, meaning to protect Mother Earth and to come back to using the resources like they were meant to be, not taking more than we need, not having this, but also at the same time not having the thinking there is not enough, because that is causing the problems. When people start being in fear, then they take more than they need. So there is a lot of amazing stuff if you choose to look at that. And that decision has to come from everybody, from really deep within. And the human mind, unfortunately, and the brain is trained like that, only really acts when we feel very uncomfortable. When we are feeling really good and everything flows, there's no need to work on personal development, or no need to work on spirituality. And then it hits at some point. And then that's when they start looking. And for me, I see a world where children in preschool are starting to learn simple techniques, breathing techniques. Yeah. The first thing, breath is life. and learning how to calm my nerves with breathing. And we will have that from very early onwards, and people know energy tools, and it's part of our daily lives. As I say, life will not be just happy and butterflies. We still have to go through these valleys and mountains. But that's also, I feel, why we came here for. If this would be all happy,
no.
Our souls would possibly say, this is boring. That's not what I came here for.
Came to experience and to feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
All spectrums.
Oh, yes. Wow. Oh, I've just absolutely enjoyed our talk today, Katrin. And is there anything, any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our women in our group here today that are listening in? Anything that may help them in their transformational healing journeys as well?
First of all, I would like to say to everybody who is feeling or has felt for a long period of time that they are like an outsider, or they are not good enough, or there is something wrong with them. There's never anything wrong with you, never. You are perfect as you are, all of you. You may not live that or experience that yet because you have some energy blocks. Like I said briefly before, they were planted, or I say programmed, into your subconscious when you were little, and you had no say in whether this is right or wrong. So if you're feeling you are not good enough, you're not loved, you're not attractive enough, you don't have enough money, any of these things are simply stories or energy blocks, and they can be removed. Life is a gift. We have to really understand that it is a gift. I lost my brother when I was 17, he was 18, and I lost my twin sister, she didn't make it to 50. So especially also to women in my age group who always think, oh, I'm getting older, and you know, my wrinkles, or my I put on a couple of kilos. Don't worry about any of these little things. They are not important. You are a part of this universe, and you are here for a reason, even if you can't see that. And if you want to change something, start with yourself. By changing yourself, you change everything. And I see already a different world than what we are currently looking at. And it's so important that more of us are joining with our own little journeys and changing and helping others to do the same. And it's a pleasure, Marama, to be in this group, because you are Wahine who started this and who understands that we are all in this together. We can't do this alone. It's so important to come together, especially these days, and heal together, transform together, but also have joy again together. So thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Absolute pleasure and absolute honor to have you today, Katrin, and to share your amazing wisdom that I know that so many women in this group are going to really tune into what you've said today, because I definitely have. And I'm so grateful to have you in our space. And yes, let's go out there and do what we can in the way that we can to help heal and transform our lives and affect the lives of others. So thank you so much, Katrin, and look forward to chatting with you soon.
Okay.
Ka kite anō.
Ka kite anō.